The Rangers weren't quite fully buyers or fully sellers at the deadline, but they still managed to make their team better and get one of the best relievers on the market without giving up very much. Talk about all they did and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the World Series champion Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan, covering this team for 11 seasons, including all 6 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank y'all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, before we get into the trade for Andrew Chafin, Jacob deGrom getting some positive news and some less positive news about Evan Carter. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code, all lowercase, LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Now, the Rangers were sitting there at the trade deadline, just 3.5 games out of the AL West, 6 games out for the final wild card after a good week and then not good weekend coming out of the second half out of that All-Star break, losing the first 2, winning the next 5, losing the next 3, winning the next 1. And then last night, we'll get more into that, and Scherzer being taken out early and a little bit of concern for his long-term health, the first start after he turned 40. But the Rangers made a trade. They did it. They made 3 trades, actually. Trading for Carson Kelly from the Tigers, trading away Michael Lorenzen to the Royals, and then making yet another trade with the Detroit Tigers, acquiring left-handed relief pitcher Andrew Chafin. The man has got a mullet, a mustache, just certified dude. Not to mention, he's actually a really fantastic lefty reliever this year who is just deadly against left-handed hitters. What did the Rangers give up? Well, I was a little intrigued seeing the Rangers go for a reliever who I thought was a rental, but does end up having a team option for $6.5 million next season. I don't know if the Rangers will end up picking that up, but he is here for this year. And all they gave up was right-handed pitching prospect Joseph Montalvo, who I had as the 27th best prospect at my midseason re-ranking of the Texas Rangers top 30 prospects, and also relief right-handed pitching prospect out of Alabama, Chase Lee, the Viper, personal favorite. Love a sidearmer, love a guy with a good nickname, and also as a former attendee of the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa, I love me any pitcher from the University of Alabama. So shout out David Robertson and the Tide as well. Now that doesn't seem like a lot, and it's not, especially compared to what it was costing to be a buyer at this deadline. This was a very decidedly seller-friendly deadline, looking at deals like the Yusei Kikuchi deal that the Blue Jays were able to fleece the Astros for what some might consider their best pitching prospect, best outfield prospect, and best infield prospect. Some debate about those hitting prospects, but pretty clearly their top pitching prospect, a guy who could outpitch Yusei Kikuchi for the rest of this year, and he's only under contract as a rental. The Astros needed some help. They got it in that. They also made a deal with the Yankees for a left-handed reliever who has been fine because their bullpen has had some issues. Shocker. The team that spent $1 bazillion on a closer doesn't have the most perfect bullpen in the history of baseball, because bullpens are by their very nature finicky, as are, as are all the pitchers that reside within them. But Andrew Chafin has been very, very good this year. He was decent last year as well, but this year has really taken it to another level. He is a 34-year-old lefty specialist. Looking at him, he feels like vibes-wise the same kind of acquisition as Austin Hedges. But he might bat about as well as Austin Hedges. But I think he's going to play a more significant part in this Rangers run down the stretch. His ERA this season is at 3.16. He has pitched in 41 games, 37 innings, 50 strikeouts. He's had a bit of a problem with the walks. The velocity isn't anywhere elite, just 92 miles an hour on average with the sinker, 92 on average with the four-seam fastball, but he is a slider-first guy for sure, just a slider, sinker, and four-seam fastball. His expected ERA, expected batting average, both of those in the top 12% of baseball. His chase rate, his whiff rate, strikeout rate, all in the top 8% of baseball, with his chase rate being in the top 3% of baseball. Does walk a few number of guys, mostly avoids barrels, mostly avoids getting hit pretty hard. The extension is pretty good for a 6'2 guy. That ball is right on him. On those hitters, especially left-handed hitters, have a very, very difficult time against him. His splits against lefties versus righties are not extreme, but he basically is pretty much going to be coming in to face lefty, because his OPS against lefty batters this year in 69 plate appearances, which is pretty darn nice. He's got a 474 OPS against lefties this year, a 756 OPS against righties. So a little bit of dramatic splits for sure. The Rangers wanted somebody who was a lefty who could pitch in these high leverage situations. They already had some good leverage guys in Kirby Yates, one of the best closers in baseball, David Robertson, who has been really darn good against lefties, Leclerc, who has been pretty good against lefties, and then their other high leverage guy was Josh Sborz, who last year was very good against lefties, but this year lefties have an over 800 OPS against him. So now this is what the Rangers bullpen will probably be looking like if they get to October, or at very least down the stretch. You have closer Kirby Yates, setup man David Robertson. In high leverage, which would be 6th, 7th, maybe sometimes 5th inning, you got three options there in Andrew Chafin, Jose Leclerc, and Josh Sborz. And then your low leverage option guys for now are Jacob Latz, Harrison Garabito, Cody Bradford, and Dane Dunning. Now, as the Rangers start to get healthier, those options will look a little bit different. I don't anticipate Harrison Garabito making the Rangers postseason roster should they get there, but Chafin gives them a guy who has just been fantastic. I talked with Scott Bentley, again, our Tigers host, because this is Rangers Tigers trade deadline, baby, and he had nothing but glowing things to say about Andrew Chafin. He said he was awful in May, but since the first week of June, but outside of that, he has been literally their best reliever. He has only had a save once this year. He's not going to be pitching the ninth inning for the Rangers, and that's fine. That is absolutely fine. And what he says about Chafin really, really holds up in the month of July. He has been just downright untouchable, an 0.87 ERA in 11 games, 10 and a third innings, 16 strikeouts. I mean, guy's been unreal. In the month of May, he had an ERA of 10.5. Month of March and April, 1.5 ERA, 2.89 ERA in June. So you take out probably one bad outing in that early June, and he has been basically untouchable ever since. Now, I don't know if he's going to go as the Rangers' 8th inning guy, but giving Bruce Bochy some options, having 5 high leverage relievers to go to in these games, even when the offense is stinky, if the Rangers get to the postseason and they get healthy, again, big ifs, even if this offense is still mediocre or stinky, they have the pitching to go on a run. They really do. I mean, this staff could be downright incredible. I mean, looking at what this playoff rotation would look like if everybody is healthy. You have Jacob deGrom starting game 1. Already, you have an advantage in game 1 because Jacob deGrom, if he is healthy and on the mound, is the best pitcher in baseball. Then your game 2 starter is Nathan freaking Eovaldi, who is absolutely nails in the playoffs. We've seen it his whole career. We saw it last year in person, how much he helped this staff. Again, you have that 1-2. you're way better off than you were last year when you had basically 2 starters. And one of them was Jordan Montgomery, who, God bless him, hero forever. If he ever comes to Arlington, make sure that man never buys his own meal or a drink, because he was an absolute legend. But after that, the Rangers had no real number 3 starter. Excuse me. Did not mean to discredit what Andrew Heaney did last year. He was fantastic, but not ideal in terms of what they would have as their number 3 starter. This year, your number 3 starter is Max Scherzer. And then your number 4 starter, which last year was bullpen game of Dunning / Heaney / sometimes John Gray / the half a game of Max Scherzer, just cobbled together. And this year, your number 4 starter is Tyler Mahle. Then, if one of those guys is hurt, the next man up would be Andrew Heaney, who is having a fantastic season, or it would be John Gray. And if all those guys are healthy and pitching like we expect, then those other guys go to the bullpen. Then you throw John Gray as another high leverage option, and you also have Andrew Heaney as a high leverage option, and maybe Jacob Latz, definitely not Carabito, Bradford and Dunning, maybe those guys aren't even throwing many innings at all. That is a phenomenal staff. And if this lineup can get somewhere back to what anywhere near what we expect them to be, or you just get some postseason magic from Corey Seager, and maybe Adolis Garcia refines that postseason magic, then this team can absolutely go nuts in the playoffs. But a lot of that depends on health. The Rangers got some big updates on the health of the 2 most important players on their IL in Jacob deGrom and Evan Carter. We're going to talk about that and what it means for this team right after this word from our sponsors. This show is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active users. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports, because unlike other apps, on PrizePicks it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. Now let's look at today's board. We've got Adolis Garcia, more or less than half a hit. I'm feeling pessimistic. I'm going less. Let's see. We've also got Andrew Heaney, more or less than 4.5 pitcher strikeouts. I'm going more. He's got a good fastball, Cardinal stink against fastballs. Seager, more or less than 0.5 home runs. Hit that less. And then we've got all the way down here, Josh Young, more or less than 0.5 total bases. I'm smashing the more. It is that easy. So download the PrizePicks app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. The Rangers take on the Cardinals in the series finale today. You can catch the hometown broadcast at 1:10 on the SiriusXM or the SXM app and search Rangers. Now, the Rangers got some good news yesterday, about Jacob deGrom throwing a 45-pitch bullpen session in St. Louis and feeling darn good about it. There were 3 ups and downs, so simulating basically 3 innings worth of work, 15 pitches each time out. He threw, I believe, his entire arsenal. I know he threw fastballs, changeups, sliders. Did not see anything specifically about the curveball, but I was also told that he threw his entire regiment, which would include that curveball. So that is a great update from Jacob deGrom, who said he's feeling good and felt confident that he's going to pitch for the Rangers this year, and he's going to help this team make a playoff chase and hopefully a start in the playoffs. If I get to see Jacob deGrom start a playoff game for the Texas Baseball Rangers, I will become absolutely feral in the best way. I've said this many times, that my favorite thing that I've ever observed as a Texas Rangers fan was obviously winning the World Series. That whole run, everything tied for first place forever in perpetuity. Amen. Number 2 on that list. You may be thinking, oh, Bryce, you're the biggest Joey Gallo fan in the history of the world. You also love Adrian Beltre so much. Also, how could you not love watching the Rangers strike out A-Rod to go to the World Series for the first time ever in 2010 in your first year of fandom? And I say, yes, all those things were beautiful, glorious, fun, and I loved every single one of them. But nothing had me feeling giddy like a little school child, kicking my feet up and smiling and giggling the entire time, like watching a Jacob deGrom start in a Texas Rangers uniform. I mean, it is just glorious. Absolutely astounding. I was just laughing so hard every single time that those other teams let the Rangers sign this man. How could they? So silly of them for the Mets to let this man walk. Obviously, there have not been as many starts as I would have liked. Obviously, we didn't get to watch Jacob deGrom throw a perfect game with 27 strikeouts on however many the math is for that, 81 pitches, 9 consecutive immaculate innings in a World Series Game 1 win over the Diamondbacks. That's not how that happened, but that's fine. That's fine. The Rangers still won it all anyway. But the Rangers getting Jacob deGrom back would be the biggest addition by far that any team that is hoping to contend made at the deadline. And it's not close. He's going to throw one more 45-pitch bullpen session on either Friday or Saturday before facing live hitters. Then could see him on a rehab assignment after that. That is a huge thing for this Texas Rangers team. Absolutely massive. And Chris Young said on Tuesday that deGrom is within 30 to 40 days of returning to the roster. Massive. Absolutely massive. As is Tyler Mahle's return. Hopefully coming soon. He's doing his last rehab start. Hopefully his last rehab start today for AAA Round Rock. Then he could be back as soon as next week. That is the hope. That is the plan. If things go well for Mahle tonight, I'm thinking he is targeting probably 65 to 70 pitches, but there hasn't been a specific target set on that just yet. The Rangers would get him back next week sometime, probably during that Houston series. He'd probably be around 80 to 85 pitches in that first start. It's a difficult lineup to go against as your first start back in the big leagues in, 14 months? It's been since, I believe, April was his last big league start. That was in 2023. The Rangers could use him very badly because of a rough start from Scherzer and a little bit of concern with him. But the other bad injury news that the Rangers got about their season is Evan Carter will no longer be a part of this regular season. His year is not officially, but all but officially done with this back injury. It was not responding well to what the Rangers were trying. The twisting motion was just aggravating it even further. So he's done. He is done for the year. Now, Chris Young didn't rule out a potential postseason return for Evan Carter. And obviously, we know how good this kid is in the postseason. A career 300 hitter with a 917 OPS in the playoffs, hitting exactly 300, on base of 417, slugging exactly 500 in the playoffs. Kid comes through in the big moments, but this is not a postseason run, or at least regular season AL West chase that he is going to be a part of. And that sucks tremendously. Not only to lose another year of development, this is the second time that he's had fewer than 50 games in a season because of back injuries. It's not the exact same back injury, and Chris Young did say that this is not a long-term concern with him. But I don't see how it's not. I want to take him at his word. I do. I don't think Chris Young is purposefully obfuscating the truth, purposefully lying. I don't think that's the case. But when you have 2 back injuries that cripple your season, and you're just 21 years old, it's hard not to get concerned long-term about this. Carter is a lanky kid, listed at 6'2", 190. The comparisons to when he was coming up in the minor leagues were to guys like, well, it was really just Grady Sizemore. And if you don't remember Grady Sizemore because you're a little bit on the younger side, I'll tell you, this guy was incredible. 3-time All-Star, 2-time Gold Glover, 1-time Silver Slugger. The guy was absolutely fantastic. But back injuries just completely derailed his career. He had 3 consecutive seasons where he was an All-Star and he got top 12 MVP votes. He had MVP votes in 4 of his first 5 years in the big leagues. I mean, just an on-base machine, a lefty, lanky lefty who was fast, who could defend well, who could hit for more power than people really expected. 22, 28, 24 home runs in his first 3 seasons, and that last one, the last one of his peak, 33 home runs in 157 games. I mean, that was the kind of hope for Evan Carter. But you have 2 seasons knocked off your development like this, and he's not getting the time and the reps to hit major league lefties to take out that big concern about his development. Those are the 2 big pillars of reasons why people didn't put Evan Carter as number 1 on their overall prospect rankings this year. I don't think he was anywhere lower than maybe 6th or 7th in terms of overall prospects in the entirety of minor league baseball. Because of that run, because of how advanced he is, because there were so few holes in his game. It was just, he missed quite a bit of time with that back injury as an 18-year-old, his first year of pro ball. That's a little concerning. He hasn't really hit lefties all that much in his career. Now, he hasn't had all that much time to, but it's a little bit of a concern. And then with the struggles massively against lefties this year, and with the back injury taking yet another season, it's hard not to worry about that long term. Maybe this injury won't be something that's recurring, but maybe injuries are just a recurring thing with him. It's not ideal. It's definitely not something that the Rangers wanted, and they could have used a little bit more help against righty pitchers, and that's something that Evan Carter has absolutely crushed this year. But the Rangers didn't make that kind of a move at the deadline. We'll look a little bit at the moves they didn't make and what is happening with Max Scherzer, his first start since age 40, right after this word from our sponsors. Get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trades, SupplyHouse.com. SupplyHouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands, and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business, and talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining SupplyHouse.com's free Trade Master program. Every Trade Master gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at SupplyHouse.com/TM and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere in just a few clicks at SupplyHouse.com. Now, the Rangers' only moves at the deadline would be classified as fringy moves. They kind of behaved a little bit like the Phillies, but the Phillies, the best team in baseball, while the Rangers are, 3.5 out of what might just be the worst division in baseball, which, if you told me that heading into this season, the AL West would be possibly the worst division in all of baseball, I would have been thoroughly confused as to why that is. The Rangers could have made a few more acquisitions at the deadline. They had just gone on enough of a winning streak to be in a position where you can't sell. You just cannot sell. Now, trading off Michael Lorenzen, who at that point was an excess in the rotation. Now, the John Gray injury really throws the wrench into things, and with the arm fatigue that Max Scherzer was dealing with, who, by the way, he's not going to need to have a stint on the IL, according to him. He was pulled a little bit sooner than they anticipated because he was starting to lose that velocity in the 4th inning, and the Rangers said, nope, you're in the he said, nope, I'm in the danger zone. If I try and pitch through this anymore, then I am going to end up very injured. And that is not at all something that the Rangers can afford right now down the stretch. He did say that he won't need an IL trip, but he will need an extra day's rest, which the Rangers do have some off days built into their calendar. In terms of August 1st, they have an off day heading into Boston, heading home to face Boston for 3 games and Houston for 3 games. Then they have an off day on the 8th, the following Thursday. Then they have an off day on the 22nd and the 26th of August. So the Rangers do have some off days, but with two spots in the rotation open, they have some concerns there. Now, who's going to fill those spots? Probably Jose Urena for at least one of them. But then you need the extra spot. Instead of being able to go on normal rest, Scherzer's going to need an extra day. That's going to mean that either Dane Dunning or Cody Bradford, who just allowed a grand slam last night, or Jose Urena is going to have to make a couple of starts. I think Urena is the logical first choice out there. Before that grand slam last night, I would have said Cody Bradford. Now, going back and looking at that grand slam and looking at that inning, obviously not ideal for your long reliever. The first time he gets into a game in nearly 4 months. Didn't quite miss as much time as Josh Jung, which, by the way, of course he gets a single in his first at-bat. Of course he gets a hit in his first at-bat off the IL. By the way, the Rangers' record with Josh Jung and without him is kind of insane. 75-49 without Josh Jung heading into Tuesday, and 70-79 without him. So basically winning 2/3 of their games almost at a 600, 660, 650 clip with Josh Jung, and a losing record without Josh Jung in the lineup. Kind of crazy the impact that Josh Jung had. Obviously, it's not all Josh Jung, but still, this offense could have probably used a little something more at the deadline, but there weren't the moves there. The Rays not moving Yandy Diaz while moving Isaac Paredes was confusing to me. Them not moving Brandon Lau while moving Paredes was deeply confusing, since Lau has 2 years of team options that are both over $10 million, and that's not the kind of money that the Rays spend on a player, even a good one. That was shocking to me. I don't know if the Rangers kicked the tires on Brandon Lau, but I had to imagine they at least gave a call. And with Yandy Diaz still being on that team, that's surprising. But apparently the Rays were asking 3 to 4 prospects in return. The Rangers said, nope, that's too steep a price. And that's not enough of an upgrade that it's going to be worth it. And the other teams that were in the conversations either couldn't or wouldn't pay that price. That was the Astros and the Yankees. Surprised that the Yankees didn't. Obviously, their trade deadline acquisition of Jazz Chisholm was huge for them, but the Astros still needed another bat. Their first base options, since Jose Abreu has been released and terrible, have not been great. They're still without Kyle Tucker. They still could use some more help on their team, and they were clearly going all in for this year with that trade for Yusei Kikuchi. I just don't really see why that wasn't an option. But also the Rangers kicked the tires on Michael Conforto in San Francisco. According to Evan Grant of the Dallas Morning News, they never really got all that close because they were looking for a part-time DH/left fielder, guy who would mash against righties, so probably a left-handed bat. And I want to give credit to Chris Young for reading this deadline well. Last year, he also read the trade deadline very well in his first year as a GM. And the prospects that he gave up were nothing, absolutely nothing, compared to the gains that he got from those guys and winning a World Series. The rest of the market was cautious last year, and the Rangers had a chance. The Rangers had the lead in the AL West. They were a team that absolutely needed to go all in, and they did last year without giving up outrageous prices. And other prospects that the Rangers gave up last year are any ones that this year I'm thinking, oh, God, the Rangers really could have used them. That's because Cole Reagans wasn't a prospect. That's the only reason that isn't the case. But still, credit to him for reading this deadline well. Credit to him for buying enough to not mortgage the future and still compete this year. And credit to him for, because he was a buyer, because he did make that trade, make a couple of trades to be a contender this year, while not giving up too much and not going for it too much, he put the pressure on these players to be better. He said, all right, y'all want to be buyers? Prove it. Y'all want to win this year? It's on you. You're good enough. I'm giving you the options. I gave you a backup catcher that is competent, maybe even good. I gave you a left-handed reliever. We are going for it. Yeah, we traded away Michael Lorenzen, but the rest of the guys that are there can pick up that slack. They can. And not sending the message during this window of contention that, oh, we're going to punt on this year because we haven't quite done it. If he did that, then, well, it wouldn't be a great message to send to this core of guys that, I don't believe in you. He said, all right, I believe in you. I believe in you so much that I believe you are all we need to go on this run. And if you don't go on it this year, then we're still in a position to where next year you can still go for it again. That is a great spot to be in. That is the right spot to be in. That is where you want to be, especially if the other teams in your division are going so all in for this year and for the next few years. Really liked Seattle's addition of Randy Arozarena for them, not for the Rangers. Not an ideal thing for one of your biggest rivals to be getting that kind of an upgrade, not just for this year or next year, but also the year after that. This is a team that is in a good spot, that needs to play better. It has a bunch of tough games coming up, but they've got the reinforcements on the way. They've got the guys that are there, that are good enough to go on this kind of a run. They just need to freaking do it now. That's all right. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank y'all so much for listening and subscribing. I'll be back tomorrow to talk about this game. Hopefully the Rangers end up winning this series and head into a massive, massive homestand in the start of August. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank y'all so much for listening and subscribing. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy World Series champion Texas Rangers baseball.